telling. Good. Just let me know as soon as you are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, are you ready? Okay. So where we were last, you were busy explaining to me that your game was not at first a survival game. So can you just repeat that? What was the game in the first place supposed to be?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm just sharing your
Ah, okay.
stream link in the Discord.
No problem.
And you just saw it pop up. There we go. That should be going out mainly for War. I think War wants to see it.
Yeah, so I did actually tell the people if they want to ask you questions, they're more than welcome because it does look like there's a lot of hype for 0.3.
Yeah, that's been quite talked about recently, which I'm very excited about. I'm happy to see that everyone's looking forward to it.
Yes,
Let me just share that out.
alright, and I see actually the 3D artist actually did also post in the Discord, and he actually offered the people if there's some textures and stuff that needs to be made better, then the people can just let you know or let him know or whatever the case might be, and I don't know, you can go through the chats and it's quite cool.
Yeah, I was following it. I saw that was Sad Life, right? He's very responsive to people, so I'm not surprised. He's great at that stuff.
Ah, okay, that's good.
Yeah, no, I was following the chat. Okay, right. I think probably all sorted now. I've sent out the links, so you're good to go.
All right.
Sorry, you have to repeat the question again. I was distracted.
No, it's fine. Okay, so the question that I had, so where before the video the video dropped, you said something about that your game was not supposed to be a survival game. Can you explain again where that whole concept came in?
Oh yeah, of course. So in the early stages, FarGone was it wasn't called FarGone then. It was called Project Breach. I think this was the code name for it. It was supposed to be a squad-based tactical shooter. Wasn't low poly. It was using high-res, PBR lighted guns. PBR materialed guns, which is like a very high-quality workflow. It was inspired by sort of SWAT 4 and games like that, and I think it was purely just because at the time SWAT 4 is obviously an old game now. Ready or Not, which is have you heard of Ready or Not? Sorry.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Ready or Not hadn't come out then, and people didn't think it was going to come out, and I saw a bit of a gap, and I do enjoy tactical shooters, so I was like, oh, I'm going to make a tactical squad-based shooter, sort of inspired by SWAT 4. And then Valheim came out, and I started playing that, and I don't know, it was like Valheim was such a high-quality survival game in my eyes that it just sort of got me excited again because I hadn't played survival games for a little while. I kind of been taking a bit of a break from survival games at that point.
Yes.
And I got really excited about survival games again because of Valheim, and immediately went back to my project and sort of But I didn't actually have to rework a ton of stuff because at the time all I'd really done was the shooting mechanics, which obviously carried over into FarGone. But I had to go and redo all the assets because I decided to go down the low poly route because obviously Valheim was quite stylized as well. Did all the assets again, added some survival mechanics, and then brought over. That's why you don't see many survival games that have human AI. There's not a lot that do that, at least from the get-go.
Yes.
Part of the reason why FarGone did have human AI was because I built that for the original concept of the game, which was going to be very heavily AI focused. So that's kind of where the direction of FarGone having the factions, and before I even thought about Stalker as an inspiration, that's why all the AI stuff came over, because I was building a completely different game originally.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so then at the end of the day, it's Valheim that inspired you to turn this game into a survival, if I do understand it correctly.
Yeah, Valheim definitely gave me the direction for going with FarGone, and then once I started building the survival game, that's when I started to realize that I wanted to sort of take some inspiration from Stalker and a few other games, because if I was going full survival, then those are the games I enjoyed in that genre. So yeah, but Valheim kicked it off for sure.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. I do appreciate that, and obviously Valheim is also like low. It's not as low poly as FarGone, but it does still have the low poly effect. So I do appreciate that. And then another question that I have, player feedback, um, in the sense of bugs, suggestions. How do you, how can I explain this? Let's say this guy comes and he says, no, you need to change this in the game, and another player says, no, this doesn't need to be changed. How do you work around it to keep everyone happy?
I mean, ultimately, I have a vision for the game, and I'm always open to taking suggestions from people. In fact, I like to think that I'm very heavily involved with the community. I try my best. I'm always in
Yes.
the Discord chatting with people, and I think if you go onto the Steam discussions page, I've got a reply to practically every single post. So yeah, when it comes to people giving suggestions, if it fits the scope of the game and the idea of the game, then I will most likely implement it. But if someone comes and it's kind of difficult because I have had people that enjoy the game, but then have suggested something that's so not fitting with the game, and I think I kind of have to be a bit realistic in that at that point and say, like, I really appreciate you playing the game and enjoying it, but there is a vision for the game. I'm not gonna. If you start including absolutely every single suggestion, you're going to get a completely jumbled mess of a game because everyone's going to want something slightly different. So the easiest way to do it is just to take on the suggestions. I mean, bug fixes obviously always take those on board, that's different, but game suggestions kind of have to evaluate them based on whether or not they fit the game. These days, a lot of people that are playing the game very much understand the inspiration and the goal for the game, so a lot of the suggestions are very, very good and on point. But yeah, that's the main thing really, is just making sure that the suggestions work for the for the setting of the game. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense because obviously you can't put stuff inside the game that doesn't fit the theme, like you would say. So no,
Yeah,
I do agree with
I mean,
that one. So you can't put all of the suggestions in, but obviously player feedback is big in game development.
yeah, I mean, there was. I'm not gonna name call, not name call. I'm not gonna give out the name, but there was someone who had a suggestion to put a hoverboard in the game, and as much as I've had a lot of conversations with that person. They're really, I can't remember their actual Discord name, but they were a really nice person. I spoke to them tons, but at the same time, I'm not gonna add a hoverboard to the game.
Yeah, I know, because obviously your game is based on a snowy mountain. That is also another thing I wanted to ask. I did actually speak to you about the effect, the atmosphere that you have in the game, but where does your game roll out? Because I see there's part desert, part snowy mountain. What exactly is your terrain?
Um, I mean, the inspiration originally was sort of Chernobyl type area, but then I kind of went in my own direction with it and changed it. So the first part of the map that I built was Hope's Plant, which is obviously meant. Well, it doesn't look like it yet. Vostek is actually working on a power plant model, which is going to be awesome once it's done. But currently, it doesn't look like Chernobyl, but it's based loosely on Chernobyl. Again, all this is loose, by the way. I haven't actually nothing is supposed to be an accurate representation. It's just loosely based. The same thing. The small town that's next to Hope's Plant is obviously a very, very small version of. Well, it's not. I wouldn't even call it Pripyat because it's nowhere near that. But just the idea of the town next to the power plant, Pripyat next to Chernobyl, is something that I sort of took a little bit of inspiration from. And then as I sort of expanded out from that area, I started to just get a little bit more just creative from whatever I wanted to throw in. So I love snow in games. So once I finished the power plant area, I was like, okay, I want some snowy mountains. So I kind of did the snowy mountain, or the starting area now as it is second. I did all that, but that's not really based off of anything. That is just purely, hey, I like snow and I like mountains, so I threw those in there. Yeah, so that's a hard one for me to answer beyond that, really, because beyond the original inspiration of Chernobyl type area, I haven't really done too much in terms of actual location inspirations. Now I just kind of build it based on what I think would be cool to add to the map.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. So, okay, so as I do understand, so this whole map is basically based on your inspiration on what you wanted to add because you like Snowy Mountains. So that is a good inspiration to have. And then I just want to add as well. I see the 3D artist spoke about a power station. What is the power station about? Because that's the first time that I hear about the power station in the game. So I don't know if
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's in yet or is it coming?
no, no, it's so if you go to Hope's plant now, which is going to be like the center point of the main story eventually.
Alright.
Currently, it's very there's nothing really there. There's just two big like cooling towers to kind of suggest that there is a power plant there. But the problem is when I've had this idea for a long time of having this big sort of power plant loosely based on Chernobyl power plant as the center point of the story. Again, inspiration from Stalker, but also I really I'm very interested in Chernobyl. I've always been very interested in sort of what happened over there. But yeah, I kind of couldn't do at all what I wanted to do with it using the Cinti assets, which is the original version 1 of the early access release was basically all Cinti assets because I'm not a 3D modelist. And I couldn't do what I wanted to do with those assets. So I kind of just threw in some placeholder towers, which look kind of like power planty from a distance, and then blocked off the area. And I've always kind of said that there will be something there eventually. And then since it's got to be like 9 months now because we haven't been solidly focusing on it, but Amptek has been working on doing a massive power plant with lots of different buildings around it and lots of tunnels and all sorts of things going underground and kind of really building out this area that we're going to eventually turn into the big centerpiece of the map and the story. Well, I say centerpiece of the map actually. No, he's also building a very big city. That's something I don't actually think I've told anyone yet. But we're doing a massive, and I do mean massive city. We've got big plans for that, and I think that's going to be the big center point of the map. But anyway, going off topic there.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, the power plant is. So we finished an exterior version of it, and the plan is to put that exterior version where the Hope's plant is now, and it will still be blocked off, but people can see from a distance like what we're building. I think that would be really cool, and we've done that. So I just need to actually look at putting it in the game. So maybe even in 0.3, I might have time to do it. If not, shortly after, people will be able to see a kind of distant version of what we're building for the power plant.
That is actually quite cool. So I do appreciate you for, how can I explain it? Basically trying to, because obviously you can't do all of the updates in one shot. So, and as I can read and understand, 0.3 is going to be a big update. So this is now where it comes in with 0.3. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments here quickly. I'm sad live.
It's about the maid outfit. Ignore the maid outfit comments.
No, I will. Okay.
I mean, they think they can wear me down into adding a maid costume outfit, and I'll be honest, it's going to be a tall order.
Makes sense. Okay, so we actually have a question for you in the comments. Are you on the video?
I think that's War, isn't it? Asking about the inspiration for the factions.
I think so. If you want to answer them quickly, then we can move to 0.3.
Yeah, obviously we kind of touched on that in part 1. So obviously, War's a fake fan and clearly missed part 1. So yes. It's a real shame. Sorry, War's been in the Discord since practically day 1. So he's kind of like a very solid part of the community.
That's good.
But yeah, the factions now are the main factions now are kind of the base factions. As I said to you in part 1, they're not massively fleshed out just yet. Liberty, if we exclude Liberty because that was more recent, the ones that were there on day 1 were purely just to establish kind of a faction system. They were more there to allow me to kind of figure out the faction warfare system, have them fight each other, and then build upon it. As we go further into the story, though, I will be fleshing out the current factions and then obviously moving on to the new ones, SCF and Liberty, and really bringing them into the story and giving them a purpose to be in the Barrens. I mean, they already have a light purpose, but I really do want to expand that purpose. So, to answer your question in a very bad way, whatever, sorry. The factions are kind of just there to allow me to build the systems more than anything at the moment. But obviously, I threw in a bit of lore because I wanted a little bit of story in there. So I didn't want it to be completely random, but primarily just needed them to be there for me to work on them.
Okay, so there we go. Is there anyone else that has any questions for RedDot?
If I see another made outfit question, I swear to God.
Well, let's give it 2 minutes to see if anyone has any questions. If not, then we can advance, because I do got a few questions about 0.3. So
Yep, sure.
So let's just
I think
see.
the maid outfit, I'm going to have to set like an insanely ridiculous Patreon tier that no one's ever going to get, just so people know that it's unrealistic.
Yeah, no. I do agree.
What were we talking about earlier about taking on suggestions that don't fit in with the theme of the game? Maid outfit kind of, that's kind of crosses into that territory.
I see. War asked again.
What color will it be? It will be invisible. It will be invisible. That's what color it will be.
So I think that is not gonna be it.
I don't know. Maybe one day they'll break me and I'll just throw it in without telling anyone. Then one day someone will stumble across it, and I've just realised I've probably just set off a fire with that one. Everyone's going to spend God knows how long checking every corner of the map now for a maid outfit.
Well, that's a possibility. That's really a possibility. And now, why do you say no?
That might be in response to me saying it's invisible, but now he's going to suddenly realise that I've just said that I might just drop one in.
Makes sense. Okay, I just wanna. Sorry, guys, that you saw my Steam there. I just wanna open the FarGone page quickly. Okay, so I just wanna go on the update that you did, because there's quite a lot of stuff. If you guys wanna, if you don't know this game and you are seeing this game, just go in the description of this video. There is a link to the store page. Then go to the news, and you guys will see actually what the dev is working on. So I'm just on your news with the 0.3 with the update you did on 20 September. So
yeah,
yes, it's the rework of the entire base code and the new.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about the devlog. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
yes, the devlog. Sorry. Well, I see it as the news. Okay, so I see you are actually working on a new GUI. The UI basically and inventory. So if I may ask, why are you changing the UI and the inventory, or are you just making it better?
Well, definitely like to think it's better. I think a lot of people have liked the idea of having a grid system for a while. I think since like the day one of releasing the game, people have asked about grid system inventory. It's very popular in survival games these days, and
Definitely.
to be honest, I always liked the grid system as well. I just didn't really. To be honest, the inventory system was one of the very, very first things I built in the game. Like it's years old at this point, so I kind of sat down and thought if I go and add a grid system, it also gives me an opportunity to redo all the code and improve it, because obviously that's like some of the oldest code in the game, and I've learned a lot about game development since I did that. So it wasn't the most performant, and had a few little bugs, especially like people can attest to this, like items getting lost in containers and stuff when saving and loading, just because the code was quite old and wasn't really the best. So it just gave me an opportunity to add a new layer of like functionality to it with the grid system, and also improve all of the background code to make sure it's more stable as well. So and then the UI was just the UI in 0.3, to be honest, gonna try and like not big myself up too much, but I think it's a massive step up from the current UI. It looks like someone who actually knows how to do UI has done it this time around.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time trying to get that right, whereas the version 1 of the UI was very much just I needed a UI because
You
play the game, basically.
Yes, you needed to get the game out. So I am actually going through your UI, and it does look a lot better with what you are planning with 0.3. So these photos or these screenshots that you have in the devlog, is this what the new UI is going to look like?
You're probably looking at the first devlog, which was the work in progress version of the inventory system. The best thing to do would be to look at the video that's on my YouTube channel, just mute it and scroll through a bit, and you'll see all the inventory stuff in there. That will be. I can send you a link to it.
And I've actually got it open here on my.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You said screenshots. I thought you were looking at because devlog 1 has screenshots.
Yes, so I'm actually looking at devlog 1, and then I'm gonna head towards devlog 2, because I see you doing weaponry textures as well. I've got no idea what the Baron's local network system is.
It's just basically meant to give a bit of lore to the reason why the people have data pads that can connect, but also it's massively expanded in 0.3, because in 0.3 you will get notifications from other AI. They'll send out messages to say that, like, hey, the shops have been restocked, or they might send out a message saying that they found a certain enemy roaming around, or they're under attack from another faction. So you'll get lots of dynamic messages that you'll receive when you're playing 0.3. Like, you'll get warnings when a radiation storm's incoming. So, and the cool thing is as well that system isn't fake. Is in, like, if you get a message from someone saying that a radiation storm's coming in, it will be from an actual AI that's somewhere in the world around you. The only time that doesn't happen is if there's absolutely no one around you and an important message needs to go out. So, for instance, if the shops are getting refreshed, that's considered an important message. I want the player to know that, regardless if there's AI around, so it will just default to, like, Baron's local network default message. But if there's AI around you that are part of your faction, they will send a message, and you can actually go and find that AI and follow them around and see them doing whatever they're doing. So that's a pretty cool system. And again, that is inspired from Stalker. That's one of the things I love the most about Stalker, was the sort of the way the world felt like it was going on around you, not just because of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. So that is basically what that is about. That Baron's network system is where the NPCs and stuff can tell you on if there's radiation or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, so a lot of people will know that if you go past the factory in the grasslands, you'll sometimes run into bandits or runners fighting the military.
Yes.
And normally you'd have to just find that. Whereas now, if you're friendly with any one of those factions, you'll get a notification sent to you, like, requesting help, for instance, from one of the AI that's in that fight, and then kind of gives you a bit more context, and makes the world feel a bit more alive as well, because it feels like they're actually people in the world sending out, requesting help, and asking for, friendly members around. Also, what's cool is that the messages that they send out don't just go to the player. So obviously, it's a bit different for setting to other AI, but if, say, for instance, if some runners are getting attacked by the military and they send out this message that you get on your data pad to say that they need help, it will also send a quiet message to nearby other runners who will also come and help if they're within range of that fight.
That is actually quite hectic. So this is going to be like, as far as I can understand it, this is going to be like a co-op game being single player, basically.
Well, it will be multiplayer co-op in the future as well. Yes. That is on the it is on the list, but I've always maintained that I want the game to be not necessarily feature complete, but I want it to be in a good position, content-wise, stability-wise. I want it to be, because the thing for me right now is I feel like there's not enough content to justify co-op. I think if I added co-op now, people would blast through the game way too quickly. So my focus is, like, get the content in place, maybe get the main story in place, and then add co-op, because I don't want people to finish the game super fast in co-op and then not have anything to do for ages. So that's kind of why I haven't focused on co-op just yet. I also need to do vehicles first. Vehicles are, like, really high on the... Like, to be honest, vehicles might be the first thing I do after 0.3.
Okay, yeah, so obviously you need to add vehicles so the player can actually drive around and stuff. But now I've got a question on this whole co-op story. Why don't you make the game, just a suggestion from my end, I don't know if the rest of the people will agree about this, why don't you maybe look at making the game a four-player co-op, but PvP. So obviously then people need to kill each other and they actually need to team up with the factions. Players can't team up, but they actually need to team up like the players teaming up with the factions now. If I do explain it correctly.
Sure, I think what you're asking is basically going to be the route that I'm going, but probably for a different reason. We'll get the same outcome, but thinking of it slightly differently. So my idea is, I've always said 4-player co-op to start with, but I don't want it to be forced co-op. I don't want it to be like, oh, you have to be friends with each other. It will be 4 people who have the same freedom that you would have in single player. So you can join a game with your friends, and you can play the game exactly how you would normally. You can do whatever you want. You can join whichever faction you want. You can fight whoever you want. And if that lines up with your friend, then great. If it doesn't line up with your friend, then maybe you get into a fight with each other. Like, the thing for me is just keeping it free. I don't ever want to I don't want the co-op version of the game to be anything different from the single player, and the main focus of the single player is going to be, do what you want, be friends with who you want, play the game how you want. That's the main focus, and obviously co-op would definitely continue that as well.
Okay, yes, no, that makes sense. Okay, so if you had I would say, if you had an idea, because I see a lot of people are asking about this, do you know in which update you might include multiplayer?
Unfortunately, I don't. I really wish I could give people more info on it, but I haven't. It's not that I haven't started. I did do a tiny prototype, actually just after the game launched, to kind of figure out how to do that. Because obviously I've never really done multiplayer before. And I had a little demo scene where you could run around and see your friends in co-op, but you couldn't. Nothing synced up. Like the AI didn't sync up, so you had different AI and stuff. It really was like a very early bare bones version. All I can really say on co-op is that it is something that I consider important, but there are just a few things before it. But as soon as it's like near the top of the priority list, I will immediately be sharing that info and probably doing lots of beta tests as well to get people like testing it. I'll probably put it on a separate branch in Steam and have it be in like a beta phase for a while and continually add to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because obviously it can either break the game or make the game. But from my point of view, and I can see a lot of people are excited about multiplayer for FarGone. So I would say if your game is multiplayer, this game is gonna blow up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about how the other people feels about it, but from my point of view, I want to play this game multiplayer because it's got the potential to go multiplayer. So obviously you get people that prefer single player, but as I see on the Discord, most of the players do want multiplayer. But at the end of the day, I do understand your point. You want to put more content in, so the game, you don't finish the game in 4 hours, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just want to get a few things done first and get the game into a really good state before I go down the multiplayer route.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so let's move towards 0.3, which all of the people are eagerly waiting for. So I don't have set questions that I am going to ask you about 0.3, because obviously there's some stuff that you want to keep spoiler free, and some stuff, that's why I didn't do any questions for 0.3, because as far as I know, there's some stuff that you will share, but some stuff you don't want to share. You want the player to be able to see it. So stuff you will share, is there anything you can basically tell us about 0.3 that the players can know about?
I can't be honest. I think over the last 2 devlogs I have shared the majority of the big things that are out there. I think
the reason why I'm asking, because obviously there might be people on YouTube that doesn't know about your game, so if they see the podcast, then they might listen to it, and then I don't know, that's what I'm asking. I do know you already posted about the video, but obviously there's a lot of people that don't know about your game yet. So that's the reason why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to do a short summary on that one, because I think with the devlog, I think was like 20 minutes long, and I can talk about it for ages, and I'll get carried away. But the main thing for 0.3, I mean, there's tons of new content. There's the new features. There's the AI rework, which obviously a lot of people are very excited about, making the AI much better, especially human AI, because they've been a bit rough for a while. But the main thing is this is like a new foundation for the game. So obviously it's been a long time since I did an update. Like Unknown Origins to 0.3 has been about 7 months. And I don't want anyone thinking that's going to be the norm, because it's not. This is everything that I wanted FarGone to have on its original early access launch, and also a much more stable code base. So it will allow me to add all the new content much faster. I can go back to doing like a big update every month or two, with lots of like minor updates in between as well. But the thing is, there's so much in 0.3, but like, there's so many things that I know people will like, but don't necessarily warrant being talked about all the time. Like small quality of life changes, like being able to move around and still walk around and jump whilst eating and drinking. A lot of people have said for a while they hate the fact that you get locked into place when you're eating or drinking. So not only have I redone all the animations for eating and drinking with much higher quality ones, I've also reworked that system to allow the player to still be able to walk around while you're doing that, which is, again, like, it's not something I would massively go out of my way to announce, but it's also something I know people are going to really like because it just makes the game, like, it flows a bit smoother. I will say that the new animations are really, really nice. The new consumable animations, much better. They're all professionally done now, as opposed to, with the current animations in game, they were done by me, and I also didn't have models that could be properly animated. So, like, you just kind of have the character put the consumable near the camera and then disappear to simulate drinking. Whereas now we've got these nice remodeled bottles and things where the player actually, like, unscrews the lid, takes a drink, screws the lid back on, puts it away.
Wow.
All these little things that kind of just add to that, like, feeling of being in the world. I'm actually really excited about these consumables, as you can probably tell, because I've just gone straight into.
Yeah.
Now I've reminded myself about it. I've gone straight into doing that. Actually, Tengo, my animator, is finishing off the last item as we speak, which is the healing animations, the injectors. Same thing with that one. With the current animation for the injector, it literally is just like a prop in the player's hand that he kind of like waves lower in the camera and then it disappears. Whereas now, he pops off the lid, you can see him inject it into his arm and then throws it away, and you can still move around while you're doing that as well. So, like, if you're in combat and you get hurt, you can quickly inject yourself while still running to cover, and it just kind of makes the game flow a lot better. So again, like, there's so many little things like that. And that's actually not little; it's quite a big change. But there's so many changes like that in 0.3, which I think, like, it's hard to go over all of them because there's so many. But at the same time, once people get into the game and they all come together, you realize why 0.3 is, like, I haven't added like lots of new missions or anything, but just the overall game is so much more solid now. Like, it's just a better experience in every way possible. I mean, especially fighting the AI. The AI is so much more fun to fight now. They are much more dynamic, and when you combine that with the new audio system, it's just so much better. I honestly can't put into words the improvement that you get from the new AI and the audio. So I think I try to keep expectations in check by saying don't expect tons and tons of new weapons and missions for this update, because that's not the focus. There are a few new weapons and there's a few new attachments. Obviously there's an entirely new attachment system as well. People have seen that before, where you can now put your attachments on your guns whenever you want. You don't have to be at a crafting bench. You can load up scopes and silencers in your backpack and swap them out on the fly now, which is much better. But yeah, so there's not tons of new missions or anything, but the overall game is just, yeah, it's so much better. And also a lot of people's feedback has been put into 0.3 as well. So I think just about everyone that's enjoyed the game currently will love 0.3.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see there is a lot of excitement for 0.3, because if I go back to the comments on Discord, I see War, I can't see this person's name. Okay, but yes, all of them, they say the new gun stuff in the video looked awesome, so there's definitely a lot of hype about 0.3. So as I understand it then, there's obviously, like you said, there's not a lot of missions added, but the overall game experience is what you are busy working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Especially with there's 100. To clarify, actually, there's 103 new items that you can equip based on the fact that we've got the new modular system. So obviously, because the sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. Because we've got the new outfit system where you've got all the different pieces that are modular, it brings the total number of items in game now is like 270, and 103 of those, I believe, are coming from 0.3. So again, that's a big chunk of new content. Thinking about it, actually, I always forget to include that as new content, because not only did we make the modular character system, but we didn't just break apart the existing models. Vorshtech redid all the character models with an entirely new system, and then obviously I put them into the game with the new equipable system. But when you include all those together, that's a big chunk of content right there. So even though you're doing the same thing, obviously, of looting and whatnot to build up your character, that's much more. involved now, much more dynamic because of the amount of different pieces you get. Like people will be, trying to hunt down like a rare set of gloves or something to complete their outfit or whatever, which is so much better than just having the outfit be a single item.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, I must say one thing. 0.3 does kind of sound like one of the biggest updates you actually have made in since 2022 when you launched this game.
Oh, by far, by far. Yeah.
Okay, so do you plan on doing another big update like 0.3, or is the rest of the updates going to be small updates?
So it's interesting you should bring that up actually, because there's some. I'm a big fan of No Man's Sky. It's a game that I absolutely adore, and they don't do it so much anymore. But I really loved their system they used to do, where they would have like 3 or 4 big updates per year. But then every summer they would have a massive update. So you'd have like, update 3.2, which had lots of new content, 3.4, lots of new content, and then you'd get to like July and you'd have update 4.0, which had massive amount of content. And obviously I have to be realistic because I'm a solo dev with a full-time job, so it might be that I can't physically do that right now.
Yes.
But I do like that structure a lot. I don't, I think 2024 is going to be the year where I really dial in what the update structure of the game is going to be. 2023 has been an experimental year. Obviously the game just launched. This is my first time having a community of people playing something that I've created. So I've been trying to figure things out, make sure I get on top of feedback and bugs. Whereas 2024 is going to be, it's the year that I'm most excited about for the game, because I think I can really, dial in the updates and get a nice structure going so that people will know when to expect new content, as opposed to just like waiting on me to say something in the Discord, because I don't like making people wait in silence, but at the same time I just needed this time to get this update done. But in 2024 I'd like people to go, okay, it's been 2 months since the last update, we know an update is due, and then when it gets to June, July, we go, okay, we're coming to summer, we now know that there's a big update coming. I would really like to have that structure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so we actually have a question on Discord. Not on Discord, sorry, I do apologize. So we actually have a question again, which was already covered, but I don't know if you want to answer him quickly. That Christopher?
Yeah, so I recently picked up your game. Was able to commit to milestones. My question is, how long before we see co-op being added? Okay, well, it's slightly different to what we asked. We more just kind of went over co-op in general. So co-op, just to recap, we said earlier that I would like to get the content in the game to a better place before I do co-op. I want to make sure that the content and the foundations of the game are really solid, so that people can play in co-op for a while and not just burn through the content immediately. I think the big thing for me is making sure that repeatable content is really solid. So just the general engagements with AI, making sure that the daily missions or reputation grinds are all sort of in a good spot so that it's fun to do. Because if it's just missions to do, people will finish that in co-op in a matter of hours, if not less. But as for a time frame, I would very much like to have a demo version of the multiplayer at least ready by the middle of next year, if not earlier. And then maybe I can just build off of the beta for co-op as the year progresses. But I will definitely be doing something with it next year. Can't say exactly where I'll be with it because I still need to figure some things out, but I will be open and transparent about it once I get to that point.
Good morning, and I just it's 2 of my friends. Hey Nell, hey Calvis. Okay, no, that does make sense. So, is there anyone that has any other questions for Red? Let's just give it 2 minutes again and see what they say.
Literally, as we're talking now, I've just received the final consumable item animation from Tengo, so I can now say that is finished, which is one of the final. Well, it's in the final group of things that needed to be done for 0.3.
Oh, nice. So, okay, so while we wait for people again to ask any questions, when do you plan on how can I say it? When do you plan on dropping the new update 0.3?
I keep on saying next couple of weeks. On my calendar, I have marked the 11th of December as the release date. However, it might be before then. I said in my last devlog that I wanted it done before my birthday. My birthday is on the 12th of December. And I'd quite like to be able to switch off for a few days around my birthday, because I can't exaggerate when I say I've been working flat out the last few weeks, and I definitely am looking forward to having a few days rest. So the 11th of December is the final day in my calendar that I've marked as like the release. So I would say any time from now, well, not now, it's not ready, it won't be ready like tomorrow, but any time from the next week or so up to the 11th. But so not long, we're under a month.
Okay, so obviously delays might happen. Um, so I do understand where you're coming at, that you want to have it done in December, but obviously delays might happen. So if there's a delay, will you finish 0.3 this year, or you're only gonna do it in January?
0.3. 0.3 will definitely be done this year. If I mean, I don't see any reason why I'd have to strip anything out, but absolute worst case scenario, obviously I'll just have to not do a few things and then release those in a smaller update afterwards. But if there is a delay, it would probably be like a week or two, and I would still release a beta version of 0.3, because yeah, I am very excited to get this in people's hands. And also the game has been doing quite well in the last few days. I think it's part of the Black Friday sale. It's brought a lot of new people in, and because I've been saying for a long time that this is like a relaunch of the game, it feels like it's already ramping up now, and I want to make sure that it worries me, not worries me because people are enjoying the game, but in my mind, all these people are buying the game right now and playing it, and it makes me paranoid because I know there's a much better version of the game like coming imminently, and I don't want people to jump in too soon and then maybe not enjoy it as much and get bored of it when like 0.3 is so close. So I do want to get it out while all these new people are hopping into the game, because again, it's just so much better.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so we actually have two questions again, if you would be able to answer it quickly.
Yeah, I've done there's a few messages that just come in. If you wouldn't mind directing me to what questions they are.
Okay, so Nels Infinity is, so what makes this game different than others that uses the same asset style and genre? And then A3G is asking about the Barons network.
Okay, yeah, sure. In the first one, the best thing as well, we're not going to be using those assets for much longer. We are very close to removing all the Synty assets now, which is obviously good because it gives the game a bit more of its own unique style. I think what makes FarGone different is my focus on trying to make the world a bit more dynamic and lived in. I'm not saying this to knock any other game, because other games have their own style and their own, like, there's things that like Dead Poly do way better than I do because that's their focus. But like in Dead Poly, for instance, there's not really any focus on human AI or anything like that. It is purely go out and loot and build up a base. They do base building much better than I do. That's their focus.
Yes.
Whereas my focus is more on wanting the player to feel like they're a part of a world that is existing around them. I really like the idea of not feeling like the world exists just for you to be in, but like it's a world for the AI to live in. I like a big focus with the AI rework is making those AI actually look more believable in terms of like going around doing things, patrolling areas, setting up camps in buildings when they're resting, stuff like that. Like really wanting it's not, I've always said this first, it's not a survival game first. Like the primary focus of the game isn't, just survival. It's also, taking in the world and being a part of it, which is I'm really bad at explaining this, but like if you play something like and I think I've really lost my train of thought. Yeah, it's like Stalker. Like people don't consider Stalker to be purely a survival game, right? Everyone talks about the world and the atmosphere and the AI, and that's kind of where FarGone. That's the direction that FarGone's heading in. Is the best way to describe it, because I've completely lost my train of thought with that one.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it's about building an interesting and dynamic world for the player to be in, as opposed to just surviving. So. And also then there's the factions as well. The factions are something that I consider quite unique compared to a lot of other survival games. I think a lot of survival games do like, you have like a safe zone where you have like a static NPC that is a faction guy and he'll give you certain missions. Whereas obviously in FarGone, the AI so the factions are a part of the world. Like the military do patrol the world, and they will get into fights with bandits, and the bandits will get into a fight with the runners. Like they're not just static NPCs to give you missions to give you the illusion of being a part of a faction. Like you can go out into the world and patrol with a bunch of people in the same faction if you find them wandering around, which is something that I really want to expand upon with 0.3 and the new AI. Like I want you to be able to find a group of military, and maybe if you're a part of the military, follow them around and see what they're up to and get involved with them. Like that's a really big thing for me, is making the factions actually in the world and not just there purely for the purpose to serve the player.
Okay, there we go. So, and then we got a question from A3G about the Barons network. Is the player able to summon NPCs to a certain location? Such as if the player is in an unwinnable firefight, can they request backup through the network?
Yeah, I gotta be careful with this one because I don't want to spoil anything because I haven't announced it yet. But there is
true.
a big overhaul to the companion system that it's already been worked on. It's not going to be in 0.3 just because it's not on the scope for 0.3. It never was. But companions are something that I really enjoy in video games, and I want to expand it beyond just you being able to summon a few people from your faction to help you. I want them to be something a bit more unique, and that is currently in the process, and it will be probably it'll be a part of the first big content update post 0.3. So that's coming, and without spoiling it too much, it will touch upon that question about summoning people.
There we go. Okay, so then Random Droid is asking, is there any chance of a full backpack system, like when you spawn you have a small bag, then there's a school bag, a light attack bag, hunter pack, adventure pack, and other bags of course? So
yeah, that's a good question actually. I haven't done too much. I mean, there is a backpack system lightly in the game, but it's purely there to increase the amount of weight you can carry. That's pretty much the only stat you get from it. To be totally honest with you, I don't know yet. I haven't given it much thought. I do know that I want to add pouches that you can put in your backpack to store additional items. So you could maybe have like a little ammo pouch that allows you to store a few more items than you would normally, and you can tuck that away in your backpack. That's something I want to add, and something that I've even started working on like slightly. As for a full backpack rework where you start off with no backpack and the amount of I don't know, to be honest. Is the honest answer, I don't know about that one just yet. I will do the pouch system first and then look at expanding to the whole backpack system after that. An idea that I do like though is having something I haven't announced yet that's coming with 0.3, and it's only a small thing but lots of people have wanted it, is having a hotbar, a quick button, so you can like press F1 to quickly use an item as opposed to having to go into your inventory and use the item. What I would like to do is have it so like the vest, like if you're wearing like a tactical vest, you get more hotbar slots because you've got like pouches and things on your vest. So it would be cool to have the number of hotbar items you can store be like based on what gear you're wearing. Because if you're wearing like fully decked out tactical gear, you should have access to more slots. Like in real life, that's how that would work.
Yes.
You'd be able to have more items in your pockets or whatnot nearby, as opposed to putting it in your backpack. So that's something I'll look into. I mean, for the first version with 0.3, it's just about giving people the ability to hotkey items that they want from their backpack. But beyond that, we can look at expanding to that system as well. So. Kind of went a little bit too far off topic with that question, but yeah, there's lots of things that I want to do, so I wouldn't rule that out because I'm always looking at these kind of things.
Okay, so for everyone that is on the stream at the moment, maybe just put a suggestion in the Discord, because obviously the dev has a lot of stuff that he needs to work on. So maybe in a month's time he forget about this. So maybe just put a suggestion, and then the dev can look at it. Okay, sorry, then we got a question, why is the dot so cute?
The dot? What dot?
I take the crosshair that you're using.
The crosshair? Is it a cute crosshair?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the question. Why is the dot so cute? And the only dot that I can see is the one in the middle of the screen.
I don't have an answer for that one. It's just a crosshair. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess it's perfectly rounded. Is that the answer we're looking for here? It's a nice circle dot. I don't know.
That's actually a cool question. I wasn't expecting a question like that. Okay, is there anyone that has any more answers for Red? Let's see. Nels Infinity, I know you always have questions. Do you have any other questions? Because he's one of my friends. He's also a streamer. Um, are you actually playing this or is it record? Oh, it's recorded. I recorded this game earlier and I'm just re-looping it because the video is only 30 minutes long. So that's why I keep re-looping the video while we talk. It's so smooth. Oh yes, because I'm streaming it off Facebook. That's why it's smooth looking. Okay, sorry, went off topic there. That was an answer question for me. Okay,
No, you're
so
good.
um, and then I actually saw there's gonna be new enemies because you don't want to let this game be just it's another zombie game. Wait, we got another question. One other question is, are there any sorts of fought on a skill system? More gunfights or kills will level up. So, do you
You
have?
have just asked the perfect question because I today was finishing up the new skill tree system. If you let me load it up very quickly, I will go over some of the skills that have been added with this with this update. I've entirely redone the current core skill system where you just increase your health, stamina, or whatnot. I've changed that into a skill tree system with perks for different trees. If you give me 2 seconds, let me just figure out where I put my list. So I've done the UI for that today, and I'll be just finishing the functionality probably this evening. Ah, there it is. So you're going to have 3 trees to start off with for 0.3. Might expand that in the future. But for now, you've got Survivalist, Fighter, and Scavenger, and each tree is going to have 4 tiers, and each tier has a choice between one or the other. So in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 skills per tree. You can choose 4 of those by choosing one or the other for each tier. Obviously, tons by 3 for each tree. So that's yeah, you've got plenty of options there for skills. Just to give you an example of a few of the different the perks, what you can unlock. If I pull up my Trello board, I did write all these down, and no, not my Trello board, sorry, it's on my Apple Notes. So for instance, like tier 1 is going to be low level improvements. So for fighter, you've got tier 1, you can choose between increased melee damage or reduced infection from undead damage. Nice and simple. But then as you get to tier 4, you get the more important ones, like a big increase to the player's health, or an overall increased armor amount from the different pieces you're wearing. If we look at the scavenger tree, for tier 1, you've got increased chance to loot food or an increased chance to loot medical supplies. You can choose one or the other. And then as you get to tier 4, you've got an increased chance to loot guns, or you can choose to have looted items have a higher condition rating as the other option. And then we'll have a little look at the survivalist tree as well. Give an example of that one. For survivalist tier 1, you've got slower hunger and thirst increase over time, or you can choose to have your requirement to sleep reduced over time. And as you get to tier 4, you can choose between true survivalist, which just overall increases your loot chance when looting containers, or you can choose to have a massive increase to your base level carry capacity. So a very cool system which is coming in 0.3, which should allow people to build slightly unique characters. I need to figure out like how many skill points I want the player to be able to get in total, because I don't want people to be able to unlock every single skill, because that defeats the purpose of having the different trees if you can just do everything. I think ideally I'd like people to have enough points to be able to max out one tree and then have a few points to put into the other 2 trees without maxing those out. So again, another level of content for 0.3 for players to really kind of build up their characters in a way that's a bit more appropriate to how they play. And this is a very early system as well, so I will be taking on lots of feedback for this one. This is something that I want to see how people respond to. I think it's a much better system, but I will obviously be watching to see how people respond to it and taking on some suggestions for new perks and whatnot.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so I do like that whole system that you are working on, because it gives a new concept to the game, so I do appreciate that. Okay, then
Yeah.
is there base building? Yes, there is, but it's very basic. Um,
Yeah,
let's
I call it the campsite system. I've called it campsite system since day one because I liked. I will be changing this in the future to something a bit more base buildy because I think a lot of people want that. But for the current version of the game, I always wanted it to be like you build a little campsite that's somewhere reasonably safe, or you fortify an existing building. I didn't want people to have the option to basically build insane bases that don't fit the theme of someone trying desperately to survive in the world. It's finding the balance because if you play something like Rust, it's a survival game, but then you've got people that are living in like mansions with locked doors and key codes, which is cool for that kind of game. But that's not what I want FarGone to be. I want it to be constantly feeling like you are just about surviving in the world. I don't want you to be like going out, killing a few zombies, then coming back to your hillside mansion. Because then it kind of feels like you're not a survivor anymore. You're basically just living in luxury in the apocalypse, which is not what I wanted. So I will be expanding base building, but I still need to find the right balance to keep that feeling of the game the same without, ruining it basically.
Yeah, no, that is good. And then I've got a question about the mutants because I see there's no other questions. Base building could be just allowing small cabin to build template build. Yes, that's basically what it is at this moment. Okay, so to get back to the AI, I see there is going to be new mutants and stuff. So the 3D artist did actually, sorry, Sad Life. I'm just going to call him Sad Life because that's what his name is on Discord.
Yep.
Okay, what can you tell us about the new mutants, and is it coming on 0.3 or is it at later stage?
Not gonna say what it is, but there is one new mutant coming in 0.3. This is probably going to be a surprise to Sad Life because we modeled it so long ago and I never put it in game that he's probably forgotten about it. So if you are watching this Sad Life, just remember the first mutant that we did. That's finally being put into the game. But for everyone else, yeah, there will be one mutant. It's not a major mutant, but it's something just to add to the pool of mutants available. That's coming 0.3. But beyond that, obviously I've always said that I don't want FarGone to be a zombie game. It's a game that has zombies in it. However, due to limitations with assets early on, I had to pad out the world with more zombies because that's all I had access to.
Yes.
But as we move forward with new models and new factions, to be honest, on an average player's run, other AI should be the most encountered. Other human AI should be the most encountered thing in the majority of the world. If you're going into like underground sewers and stuff, then you should be expecting to encounter more mutants and undead. But like if you're just walking along a road to get to one end of the map, the main thing you should be encountering is other factions. That's the idea. And then zombies will be obviously like fillers in between. And then as you start going into like more interesting locations like abandoned bunkers and underground stuff, then you'll be encountering some of these more interesting mutants, which is already kind of in game. Like the scalper mutant hangs around in dark areas underground. Like if you go into the sewers and the hazard zone, you're going to bump into those guys, and they're pretty freaky actually. But obviously with 0.3, I don't know if even you know this part. It has been announced, but I haven't been talking about it or shown it off yet. But there's a complete overhaul to the bunker system, and Sad Life has done an incredible job modeling 2 absolutely huge bunkers that are going to be in the game for you to explore. There's one bunker in the game currently in the mountains, and it's not very good. It was something that I threw together early on because I wanted a bunker, but didn't really end up committing to the idea. Obviously, you've got the bunker master where you can decode key cards to unlock the bunkers, and then you should be able to find like crates in there that have very high level loot. That system is an amazing idea that I just never committed to, but with 0.3 we have committed to it, and that is entirely new content as well. So going back to the previous question of content, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with that bunkers. But going back to the question of mutants, these bunkers are where you're most likely going to find all of these more interesting mutants and different types of enemies.
Okay. So, but now the other question is, so there's only going to be one mutant in 0.3, a new one. So is
One new mutant, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the rest of the mutants is going to come at a on later updates, basically. Okay, so that's good to know. And then we got a random droid. This would make the game harder, but will there maybe be a different healing system if you shot it? Takes a couple of days to heal. I don't really understand that question. Do you
Yeah.
understand it?
Yeah, no, I get what he means. I think he's inferring that would you be able to get injuries that persist beyond just use an item and it immediately heals it. Like for instance, currently, if you take a shotgun round, you can break your leg, but that
Oh,
can be
yes.
immediately solved by using a splint. So to answer the question, yeah, I like that idea. It would be with 0.3. Obviously, I'm adding difficulty options to allow people to turn on and off features they don't like and tailor the game a bit more to what they want. And now that I've got that system, I can look at adding more hardcore stuff like that. Because the big problem before is that if I added that feature a few months ago, before we had difficulty options, the people that maybe don't want that level of hardcore in the game would have to just deal with it. And that didn't seem like a risk that was worth taking back then, because stuff like long-term injuries is like a very niche thing. I like it, just to clarify. I think it's a great idea, but it's definitely more niche, and that a lot of people would find it frustrating. But now that we've got those difficulty options, I can just allow people to turn those sort of things off, and then I can now add them for people that do want them. So yeah, that sort of stuff will come.
Okay, there we go. And then your player will have a harder time aiming. Okay, so basically he's saying the player will have a harder time aiming when your player is in pain.
Yeah, I imagine if you get like shot in the arm or something and it's damaged, then you can have more weapon sway.
Ah, there we go. Okay, so as I do understand, you guys, well, Sad Life is remodeling most of the stuff. Is the player also gonna be remodeled, like the arms, or is
Already has been, yeah, for 0.3. That's part of the modular character system. It's all brand new.
Okay. Damn, you guys are fast. I love more realistic health status. Oh, okay. So that's Nell that says he likes the health system that you just spoke about.
Oh yeah. No, I like that sort of stuff too, and that's why that FarGone has a light health system already in game with buffs and debuffs that you can get from not taking care of your character. Like if you don't eat or drink, you'll get unwell, or if you spend a lot of time in hazardous zones, you can get toxic poisoning, stuff like that. It's already like the core functionality is already there, but yeah, just needed to wait for the difficulty options to be added before I can really go be a bit more inventive with those.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so the difficulty options, I haven't seen it. Is it in the 0.3 update or is it already in?
0.3, yeah, it was actually one of the first things that I did for 0.3. It's been done for the best part of 4 or 5 months now, but because it's been built within the scope of 0.3, I couldn't take it out and add it just as a small update by itself, because it's kind of dependent on other stuff that's part of 0.3. So it's been a bit of a frustrating one actually, because over the last 6 months I've had quite a few people that have been like, oh, can I tweak the difficulty options? And I know that I have the ability to add that to the game, but I couldn't put it in the live build just because it is very like nested within 0.3 as a whole. But yeah, that's going to be coming. If I go into the menu, I can actually give you an overview of some of the things that you can tweak currently. Again, this is all subject to be expanded, but currently you can tweak the AI's aiming accuracy, so you make it harder for them to hit the player. There's no difficulties in like easy, medium, hard. It's all completely adjustable like a multiplier, so you can scale from like 1 to 4, 1 being the default AI accuracy, 4 being like massively inaccurate. So you can find like a good balance between those numbers, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Same for loot. You can change the loot multiplier, increase that for more loot. You can modify the shop prices around the world, make things more expensive or cheaper. You can enable or disable toxic storms. Just a note on that, it won't actually disable the visual aspect of a toxic storm, because I put a lot of work into making those look cool, and I'll be damned if I'm going to remove it. But it removes the toxic radiation that comes with it, so you won't have to worry about that, because a few people don't really like the toxic storms, which is fine. So giving people the option to not have to deal with that. And then for player-specific options, you can modify how much damage the player receives. You can modify how much damage the player deals. You can modify how much needs rates change, so you can slow down hunger or thirst. You can modify how much XP the player gains from doing activities. You can fully disable the requirement to sleep if you want to. You can disable losing items on death, so you'll never lose any items. And you can enable and disable the crosshair. The crosshair is actually going to be disabled by default, which is how the game launched originally. There was no crosshair because I like that style of gameplay, but people, more people wanted a crosshair than people that didn't, so I added one.
Yes.
Whereas now that it's an option, I'm going to revert to crosshair being off by default, and you can turn it on in the settings. But to go along with the crosshair being disabled, I've actually reworked laser sights for the guns. They actually are really good now, because before they were
Oh.
just purely visual, like just have a cool little thing on the gun. Whereas now they actually act as a laser pointer that shines a little laser light on the surface you're aiming at to give you an idea of where you're aiming, so you can actually use them. That's pretty cool. But yeah, that's all the difficulty options that are going to be coming with 0.3 at launch.
Oh, that's actually quite cool, because like Nels Infinity says here, I love settings, so I do agree with him that the player has the choice on how he wants or she wants to play the game. So I do appreciate for you putting that into the game, where you can actually toggle off stuff you don't want, like the sleeping, because from my point of view, I hate sleeping in games. I
A lot of people do.
Yeah, because for me, I want to play the game. I don't want to rush to get to a campsite so I can sleep. So I do appreciate that you are putting this option in. Okay, then we got Nels Infinity that's asking, when you die, do you lose everything, or how does that work? So he just basically answered it. At this moment, you don't lose anything. Well, I died and I didn't lose anything. So I don't know if you want to answer that quickly.
You may have only had, you may have gotten lucky. So in the current build of the game, if you die, you have a random chance to lose a different number of items. There's some items that are specific that you can't lose. For instance, a data pad, like you can't lose that, or you can't lose quest items because that would just break progress. But like, consumables, ammo, armor, that stuff, you have a chance to lose a bunch of it. And the idea being that obviously when you die, you go back to your bed. So the idea being that if you die, you don't die, you get mortally wounded, and someone has to help you back to your save point. And on the way, you might have been looted by bandits. So it's not a guaranteed thing. And I do need to add a bit more of an explanation to that, because a lot of people don't understand why they lose some items, and I haven't added anything in game that specifies that you were looted by bandits on the way back. So I'll probably add like a text prompt to say, hey, you made it back home safely, but on the way bandits found you and took some of your stuff or whatever. So that's how it currently works. So you do lose a random number of items on death, but obviously that will be toggleable for those that don't want that, because a few people have actually like rage quitted the game because they've lost like a good gun or something, which that's something I enjoy. I like risk and reward, but there are people that don't like that. So that's obviously why we've added those options.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. For me, it's also it's a survival game. You need to lose stuff on death. So for me, that needs to be into a survival game. It completely breaks the game if you still have your stuff. But like you say, some people don't want to lose stuff because they worked hard to get it, and now they have to grind again to get the stuff back. So I do appreciate that you're going to add that as well, so the player can decide if they want it or not.
I think Nels Finity just asked, can that be an option? That's kind of what we're discussing. Is currently you lose items by default, but with 0.3 in the difficulty, you can opt to turn that on or off. So you can choose if you want items to be lost on death or not.
Yes. Okay, and then Nels Infinity is asking, is there a map? Will there ever be a loot back from death and a market to get your stuff back?
There is a map. Yeah, there's a map in the game. Currently, it's got a weird bug at the moment, actually, where people keep reporting that they're losing their player icon. I need to investigate that. But yeah, there is a map, and dropping items, that's something that I keep thinking about, and I just haven't. I don't know why I haven't added it to the game, because I keep thinking, oh, that would be a cool idea. I think I would like to make it a bit more interesting, though. I think the reason I haven't... Well, I'll go over my thought process and why I haven't done this yet. I don't want it to be a guaranteed thing that the bag is just dropped on the floor and it's always there, because that kind of defeats the purpose of saying, hey, you've been looted by bandits on the way back. What I would like to do is have it so a little bit like Outward. Have you ever played Outward?
No, I have not, no.
Okay, Outward's a survival game as well, but it has different scenarios when you die. So it might be that if you die from a bandit, the bandits will have your loot. So if you want to go back there, you'll have to kill the bandit that killed you to get your loot back. Because obviously, in my idea, in terms of the lore, if a bandit kills you, he's not just going to leave your stuff on the floor. He's killing you to take your stuff. So to get it back, you're going to have to kill him. But on the flip side, it might be that if you just die from a zombie, then yeah, your bag is going to be just on the floor wherever you died, because a zombie isn't going to care about getting a brand new data pad, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking for that idea, but then that requires a bit of functionality beyond just dropping the items at a spot on death. I need to figure out, you know, detecting whether the player was killed by a bandit, making sure that those items are added to the bandit's inventory, making sure that those items are properly stored between saving and loading. So there's a few things that need to go into that kind of system to get it right, because this is kind of why things like this take a bit longer for me to get sorted, because I don't necessarily want to always just follow the traditional survival game route, because I don't want FarGone to just be a traditional survival game. I mean, it kind of is at the moment because it's still early access, but I want to just, where possible, put my own spin on things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, I must say, I've never really seen any single-player survival games where you join factions. I know there is stuff like that, but you don't normally see it, if I can explain it like that. Well, I don't know about any other games that does this. I don't know if there is. I've got no idea.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, there's some games that have like safe camps, but usually the factions are just static mission givers, and the faction system is kind of there just to give background lore. Whereas in Far Gone, the factions are at the forefront of the game. They're in the world, they're battling each other, and joining them is a process. Like, you have to earn their trust and their reputation. So then they're not just there to be mission givers. They are in the world as a key point of what makes the Barrens unique to other survival games.
Yes, so I do like the fact that you need to speak to the NPCs and ask them questions and see if you can join the faction, but then obviously you can't join the faction unless they have your trust. So
Yeah. Well, just to add to that, there's some stuff in the game which I want to expand on. Like, for instance, currently a lot of people don't know this because the grind to join the military is quite a harsh one. So there's not many people that are in the military. But if you come across a group of military members and you are neutral with them, but not part of the faction, and you speak to them, they'll kind of talk down to you. Like, they'll refer to you as civilian. They won't really be that open to you. But if you are a member of the military and you talk to them, they will respond differently to you, and they'll greet you as another soldier. And then also you've got the there's a merchant in Camp Alpha, which is the home of the military, which will only sell items to members of the military, and stuff like that. I really want to expand upon, because right now there's a few like unique things that come with being part of the military. Also, you can recruit military members as companions by being a part of the faction, and that's something I really want to expand, because I like that stuff, and it's there, it's in the game. It's just I've kind of been sidetracked with other things lately. But when the faction system is kind of getting more worked on, that will be stuff that I want to expand.
ah, that makes sense. Yeah, so obviously you already got the concept and the core of the game, so as the updates come, you can definitely expand. Okay, so then we got Nell's Infinity. What if you get killed and the bandit loots you, and there's a marker that shows the bandit that has your loot? You can chase them down to get them and then get your loot back.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, it's pretty much what we were saying earlier. That's exactly
Yes.
the system I've been thinking of adding. Yeah, it's more just about making your loot go to somewhere that's appropriate for what happened to you. So when you die, it doesn't just always appear on the floor. So the idea will be the same. There'll be a marker as to where it is, but where it is needs to kind of be based on what happened to you before you died. Is the idea. Like, for instance, with the military, maybe if you're hostile with the military and they kill you, the marker will be like a locked crate somewhere in a military camp, because, you know, in my eyes, the military aren't particularly going out there killing people for loot. They already have lots of good equipment. So if they do kill you and, injure you, and you drop items, they'll just go and put them into a locked crate somewhere back in their armory. And then to get your stuff back, it will be a bit more tricky because they're a bit more, well organized. So yeah, and again, you'll have a marker on the map to say, hey, your items are in this container. That would be something that I'd want to do.
Yeah, no, that does definitely sound like a cool idea. I would love to have something like that. Feel like that would be cool and fun having to explore. Definitely. So then it gives the player, how can I explain it? The idea to explore to go get your stuff back. But obviously you need to be well equipped, if I do understand it correctly. Because obviously you need to kill the military to get your stuff back.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but now when you kill the military, how's that gonna work? Is the military then gonna turn against you and every time they see you they're gonna shoot you? Or is it only a one-time thing?
Yeah, I mean that's already in game. If you get into a fight with one group, obviously the whole group will immediately become hostile for the duration of that fight. But then you will slowly start to lower your reputation over time. I mean this is all stuff that's already in the game, so
Yes.
they won't hate you immediately for getting into one scrap with them. And the idea behind that is obviously if you kill a whole group of them, how are all the others at base going to know about that? They're not going to know that you specifically are the one that killed them. But if you keep going around killing military and doing stuff they don't like, over time that you're going to build up a profile with them and your reputation will gradually lower to the point that they will eventually recognize you and shoot you on sight. And obviously that system's already in game for all of the factions. If you start doing stuff they don't like, in particular Liberty and military are linked, because I mentioned earlier they're sort of hostile to one another. They're kind of in a bit of a war. So if you start doing stuff for Liberty, military will dislike that because they'll see you as allying with the enemy, and vice versa. If you're good friends with the military and doing stuff for them, Liberty are going to be hostile to you eventually because they're going to see you as on the enemy side.
Well, I must say, for a early access game, you actually have a solid foundation here, because the AI for me, I don't know how to explain it. It's clever on how you did it. I, I honestly have no words for it. How did you decide at the end of the day to make the AI so clever?
Well, that stuff's not. Yeah. With the actual combat of the AI, I still think they're far too dumb, which is why I'm reworking them in 0.3. But for the background stuff on deciding the reputation and whatnot, purely, I mean, from day one, I've always said I want the world to be dynamic. I don't want it to be a static thing that the player's just in. I want it to be a living, breathing world that progresses with or without player input. And the factions and the AI should treat the player how they would treat each other, as in, they do stuff they don't like you, or if you do stuff they like you. So that's kind of been there since, honestly, day one. It was always, a lot of the original development time was making sure that system was quite fleshed out. I think it's going to be much, much better in 0.3 because the minute-to-minute engagements with the AI are so much better, because the firefights are now much more intense with the AI being a bit better and the sound effects being better. It definitely makes that feeling of fighting for your faction or against enemy factions much more intense. So it kind of brings the whole system together to really, like, right now the background system is good for how factions respond to the player's actions, but because the AI in terms of combat isn't where I want it to be, it kind of diminishes the feeling of working hard to be with the military. Like, if a player grinds really hard to join the military and they get into a fight with bandits, they realize that the other members of the military aren't particularly skilled. Like, they're fine. You can get into a fight with them and they'll shoot each other and whatnot, but they don't act like. I want the military to clearly be smarter than the bandits, for instance. So when you work hard to join the military, you feel like you're a part of a faction that is better than your average Barons member. And that obviously really feeds into the whole faction system of making the faction you choose to be a part of, like, a specific reason. Like, you might join Liberty because you want to do the missions that unravel more of the story about what happened in the Barons, because obviously their whole thing is using technology to try and understand what happened. Or you might join the military purely because you want to feel like you are, helping the Barons, trying to restore order. You might join the bandits just because you want to be a bit of a dick and kill everyone. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I want the AI in combat situations and also how they just kind of act to represent who they are, because right now they all kind of just follow the same AI pattern. I'm pretty proud of the fact that the AI are in the world, because like it would have been so easy for me just to make some static characters at specific locations that don't do anything. So although the AI isn't brilliant right now, I'm still very proud of the fact that they exist in the world. They wander around the world. They fight each other. They fight undead. Like, that's still really cool.
Yes.
But I want to really dial that in and be like, okay, the military are good at this thing. The Liberty are good at doing this thing. The scientists are crap at fighting, but they'll give you lots of high-end scientific equipment. Like, that's kind of the route I want to go with this.
Yeah, no, that does actually sound good. And obviously so did you start working on updating the AI in 0.3, or is that still coming?
I've been working on the AI update for a while. So 0.3, there will be a new AI system. Whether or not it's the completed one, I don't know yet, because it might be that I want people to give me some feedback on it. Because AI is so difficult to get right, and it requires a ton of debugging to see why they're doing weird stuff. Like, in particular right now, AI have a real bad tendency to fall through the map, and it really annoys me. So that's obviously something I've fixed with the new AI system. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is the AI is much better, even in its current state. With not the live version, I mean, what's coming with 0.3 is much better. But I don't know if I'm going to put a pin in it post 0.3 and say, okay, AI is now done. It might be that I want to take on feedback from people, see what they think of the new AI, and then expand upon it. Because the main thing with the new AI versus the old AI is the old AI was kind of they weren't very well coded, in that it was my first stab at doing AI, and adding to it's been a nightmare. Like, adding new features to AI has been nearly impossible because it's all spaghetti code, whereas the new AI system is very cleanly written and it's all modular. So like the different actions they can do is like hard to explain. I'm using what's called, I'll try and explain it the best I can. I'm using now what's called a state system. So you'll have like a set of code that runs when the player's in when an AI character's in like an idle state, and then when they find someone they need to kill, they swap over to a new set of code that's for specifically combat engagements. And the reason that's good is because it allows you to add as many states as you want for doing different actions, but it's all independent, so there's no spaghetti code. Because like right now, if I wanted to make AI do a new function, I have to inject a whole bunch of code into all the existing code, and then I've got to make sure it doesn't break anything else. I've got to make sure that it works with all the other actions that AI can do, and the only outcome from that is bad, because the more stuff you add, the more stuff you have to consider, and then eventually you've got the most messy AI code possible. So with the new system, I can diagnose problems within specific states very quickly. I can add new states without it affecting existing states easily, and it just overall allows for a much cleaner and easier workflow, which is the main thing that's going to help the game long term.
Yes, yeah, no, I do agree, because obviously with spaghetti code, if you did it like 5 years ago and you need to go back and add something, then you need to remember, what did I do here? So yes, yeah, no, I do agree with that statement. So there is
spaghetti code's interesting. Sorry, I was going to say, I think spaghetti code's an interesting one. I think people always assume that spaghetti code purely means bad development, and while it is a bad practice, I think a lot of people don't realize is when you're working like really long hours and you need to add something, for instance, and sometimes you're like really tired and you just take a bit of a shortcut because you're like, oh, I'll fix it later, and you quickly, like the same thing with like any job, right? Wherever you work, sometimes you just want to do things just to get it done quickly because you're busy, you're tired, or whatever. But the problem with that is then with coding is you start to build up technical debt. So it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, hey, that person's a bad programmer. It might have just been they had a few bad nights, they were tired, trying to get stuff done. But then before you know it, you've got a bunch of technical debt and spaghetti code happens. So yeah, the main thing is now for me is just trying to avoid that, because I've kind of, when I was building the game early on, I was pulling all-nighters to try and get this game released, and as a result, I kept on just taking a few shortcuts. Not because, I'm not saying I'm a terrible developer or anything. It just meant I was just busy and I had stuff to do. Obviously, I work a full-time job, and I was like, I just need this to work, which is fine for like that moment. But then like 6 months later, you need to do something that uses that code, and you're like, oh crap, now I've got this mess of code. So with the new modular state system, it's about kind of almost forcing myself to not be able to make that mistake, because I think, every developer can relate. Eventually, you're going to do something a bit spaghetti, just because you're tired, having a bad day. Doesn't matter what the reason is; it happens by mistake sometimes. So by doing this new clean workflow, I'm kind of like forcing myself to not be able to make those mistakes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So we actually do have a developer in the chat at this moment, Legend of Galvez, and he's using Unreal Engine, and he says he also does. I learned not to code while tired, and he said he also does spaghetti code. So it's true what you're saying. Other developers can basically vouch for you on that you want to quickly just get it working, and then 6 months later you have to go back and redo it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's I think every developer on the planet at some point has done spaghetti code by mistake. I think like if you're ever unwell and you're taking paracetamol to feel better, don't even bother coding, because you'll come back the next day and you won't understand a damn thing you wrote. Like it's just these things just happen, and it's never like it does kind of like annoy me when I see people saying that spaghetti code equals lazy code, because it's not always the case. It just sometimes happens by mistake for a variety of reasons. But again, you can avoid these things by just planning out what you're doing in advance. And like with the state system practically prevents me from doing spaghetti code, because every single action is within its own little isolated block. So it's it helps alleviate that problem for like if in a couple of months I'm trying to add a new state to the AI and I'm really tired and I'm pulling an all-nighter,
Yes.
even if I'm trying to take shortcuts, I physically won't be able to, because the state machine requires the code to be in its own little box. So it's good planning and making sure that you can't do those mistakes, because I think it's impossible to train yourself to never make a mistake.
Yeah, no, obviously you can have as much experience with coding, but everyone is human. They are going to make mistakes. Doesn't matter how many years of development skills you have. It's a part of being human. So I do agree with that one. Okay, and then best practice is to keep it all done right with every step of the way in coding. Yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say that's the dream. It's just I think sometimes when you're really really busy, you slip up. Like again, especially in my case, because my main job is software development. Sometimes I'm writing code for like 14 hours a day, and when it gets to that 14th hour, I can't tell you what's going on in my head. Like it's all a jumble, and you gotta like account for that. Especially as long as I'm working two jobs, as in my main job and FarGone, I'm always going to be sort of having those days where I am really tired but trying to meet a deadline. So stuff like that just happens.
Yeah, no, but obviously it's your own work that went into the game. So obviously if you gave the source files to another developer, he's not going to know what's going on. But you can always go back and look at your own code, and you will basically know what you did wrong, and you can improve on it. So at the end of the day, spaghetti code, I would say, is not such a big problem. I know obviously, like you said, a lot of people say it's lazy code, but at the end of the day, if it works, you can always improve it in the future.
Yeah, I think it's become a problem with games being supported for long periods of time now. Like, if you go look at a game on the PS2, it doesn't matter if there's spaghetti code in it, because it's never going to be updated. It's never going to be added to. Like if it works in that state, fine. It doesn't need to do anything else. Whereas these days, you need to build everything to be scalable. Like obviously, if I want to support FarGone for 4 years or 5 years or however long, I need to make sure that the code that I'm building now is scalable for the future, so that I can, I don't have to redo stuff. Like a big part of 0.3 has been me redoing stuff that I didn't do right the first time, and that's obviously, something you learn just from building. Obviously, I know I've been a developer for a long time now. I've been doing development for like 10 years, but I've only been a game developer for like 4 or 5 years, and this is the first time I've had to like support a project for a long time. And obviously, I've learned a lot on that way, on that sort of path, in terms of doing code the right way to make sure it's safe long term.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so then we have a question: will there be airdrops in the game when spawned all factions fight over it?
I don't know, to be honest. I've seen it in a few other games. I think it makes more sense in a multiplayer game than it does in a single player game, because
Yes.
in a multiplayer game, you've got players fighting over the airdrop for good loot, whereas right now, if I had an airdrop, it's basically just the player that's going to be running towards it. I mean, I could do AI fighting over it, but that requires obviously quite a bit of work. So probably for now, no, just because I don't know if it would make much sense in a single player game currently. But again, when co-op comes out, that might be a cool idea. It depends on sort of where the game is at, in the next year, because right now I don't know if it would make much sense.
Yeah, I know that does make sense, because obviously for single player, I also do agree, it doesn't really make sense. It's a cool idea, don't get me wrong. It's a cool idea for the fact that you can fight against other factions, but then yet again, that's gonna basically bring your trust down with all of the factions, because obviously you're gonna fight all of them to get the airdrop.
What you've just said there, though, is something that I do like the idea of putting the player in situations where it's not simple to keep the factions happy. Like, I don't always want people to be able to keep their relationships perfect all the time. Like, I want there to be situations where it's like, oh, should I be getting involved in this fight and risking upsetting a few people for the reward of loot, or should I stick to my guns and make sure that I keep people happy and ignore that loot? So you've kind of touched on something there that would make airdrops interesting for me.
Okay, so Random Droid, maybe put it in the suggestions in the Discord as well. Then maybe Red can have a look at it at a later stage, because I don't think. Do you think you're gonna implement it soon if you wanna implement, or is that gonna come at a later stage?
It wouldn't be soon. Obviously, I've got things planned for the next few months, and
Yes.
I'm trying my best to not keep adding ideas all the time, because I'm really bad at that. I get excited by ideas and I start working on it immediately, and then it throws my timelines off. So I'm trying to commit to keeping things organized at the moment. But if it's in the suggestions, then it might creep into an update, after my next planned one. Obviously, 0.3 is coming out, and that's my focus now. But I've got the next one planned.
Oh, you already have plans for the next update as well?
Oh yeah, no, I already know what's coming post 0.3. I've already got it all planned out, and Vostek's already working on some of the models for what's coming afterwards.
Oh damn, you guys are fast. Okay, so is there any other questions? Because I see this, we have been at it for about 2 hours now. So do you guys have any other questions? Because I don't want to keep the developer here for too long. So if you don't have any other questions, just let us know, and then we're gonna end the stream. Yeah. If there's something else that you also want to add to the people or tell the people, you're more than welcome.
Much to add, to be honest, other than anyone that is watching this. I guess I always like to just say thank you for everyone that has supported the game. It's been an incredible year, to be honest. When I released it, I was not expecting much. I think I remember having a conversation with my mum when I released it, and I was talking to her just about what I've been working on, and I was like, I'd be happy if just 2 people enjoyed the game. That would be a cool thing. And now we're sitting here with a couple of, I think quite a few thousand sales. I think maybe over 10,000 copies have been sold, and we've got a Discord with people that really enjoy the game, and it definitely it makes it all worth it. It makes the long nights and the all-nighters worth it, and it definitely keeps me motivated and going. So I do really appreciate everyone that's been so positive about the game, and people that share their opinions, and even the people that can pop in just to share bugs. It really helps, and it shows me that people care about the game, because they want to share the bugs and get them sorted to improve the game. So it's just feel very blessed and very much appreciative to everyone that's been involved with the game.
That's also one thing I wanted to, before I end the stream, I just want to ask something quickly about the player base. When you started creating this game, did you think there is going to be people that will enjoy your game? Can you still hear me?
I think it just disconnected for a sec.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, did you get my question?
I didn't, I'm afraid. Sorry. No, I've got two Wi-Fi's at home, one for the office and one for the house, and for some reason my laptop decided just to swap between the two. I don't know what the hell that was about.
Okay, no problem. So what I was asking, when you started development on your game, did you think there is gonna be people that's gonna enjoy your game?
Uh, I mean, you always hope, but it's my first time ever releasing a game, and I think when you haven't ever seen something be a success, it's hard to imagine. And also, to be totally honest, I as much as I wanted people to enjoy it, I never built it. But I never built it with the idea of, specifically making money and having it sell. I built it because I really enjoy game development and I enjoy survival games. That was the main focus. Um, but even now, like now that I've seen people talking about the game and enjoying it, I feel like the game has so much more potential in it. I really do think that it can be something quite special. I think it hasn't even come close to its peak, and that excites me. And so that's kind of where I'm at with the community of the game. Is I do think it has a lot more room to grow, and I just need to get a few things right. Yeah, I didn't really think it was gonna. I knew the game was fun, but it's not about like whether or not I thought the game was good when I released it. It was
Yes.
more about like how many games are released these days. You don't ever think people are going to see your game amongst all the other games on Steam. And also, I had a real problem with using assets. Not problems in like I used too many, but I didn't like using assets. I had to do it because I didn't have a budget. Or I was funding it purely off of my full-time job, which obviously I have to also live off. So yeah, I didn't really have tons of money to throw at custom assets. So even now I still get like kind of upset when I see the term asset flip, because I think asset flip is a term that people use wrong these days. An asset, using 3D models is not an asset flip, because you don't get a game just by buying a few models. So it definitely hurts to see that, but and that was something I had a massive amount of paranoia about when I released the game last year. I thought that everyone would just go, "Oh, it's another Cincy game," which thankfully most people have appreciated the work that's gone into making the game, because Cincy assets don't give you a game; they give you some models. And also now we're moving away from Cincy assets as well, so I'm really happy about that.
Okay,
So kind of long-winded answer to your question.
no, that's fine. Okay, we got one last question. Could there be a way to create your own faction in game, where you can find members, people who are not in the faction, to join yours and fight other factions?
Sure. So I'm going to answer this with what I have planned. I don't know about creating your own faction, but I do want to add a ranking system to the. I do want to. I am actively working on adding a rank system to the factions, where you can climb the ranks of your faction to maybe be a higher level member of it. Maybe not the person that runs the faction, but like a high level, like a lieutenant or something of the faction. And then on top of that, I want to add a camp system similar to State of Decay. Now, this isn't something I've just come up with. I've wanted this since before the game even released. It's just I've never got round to adding it, but it's very high on my priority list. And then the idea being that the camp system will tie directly into the faction system, in that maybe you'll get a mission from your faction as you climb the ranks to go and establish a base for your faction, and then you can bring members from your current faction to the base to work at it, to defend it, and then you can build it out as another outpost or base for your chosen faction. That's something I really want to add.
Yeah, no, that does sound cool. Okay, so is there anyone that has one last question? Then I need to end this stream. Because, like I said, me and the dev have been going at this for 2 hours with the previous stream as well, and obviously he's got stuff to do, and he still needs to get 0.3 ready for us by next month. So I don't want to keep you up for too long. So let's just see in 2 minutes if there is any other questions.
Yeah, that's all good. I've got to get straight back to the grind after this podcast.
But I'm sorry
I'm
for
not-
I'm sorry for keeping you so long here.
Oh, no, not at all. This has been really good. I really enjoyed this, and it's always good to talk about the game. I love talking about it, so I could talk forever about it. So it's probably good that you end the stream eventually, because otherwise I'll just sit here and talk and talk and talk.
Well, I do actually, because I think people will appreciate it. Do you think we can do one again as soon as 0.3 drops, and all of us
Yeah, absolutely.
played it? Then we can do a podcast again on 0.3, but then this time we can actually have the community join the chat, and all of us can be on stream. If they don't want to be on the stream, that's fine, they can type, but from my point of view, a developer that sits with the community, that is golden. So do you think we can maybe do something like that as soon as 0.3 drops, then about a month after that in January or February or whatever the case might be?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm fully on board with that. That sounds good.
Alright. Okay, so
I've just seen the question from Legend of Calvus. Just to clarify, there is a lot of lore establishing the story, but the main story quest line is not in the game yet. But there will be a main storyline, a main quest line, yeah. So actually, Random Droids are kind of both, pretty much. Currently, it is kind of both. There are missions that establish the story and the lore, but yeah, I will be working on a full, actual campaign, not campaign, but storyline that you can follow eventually. Well, actually, I say eventually. It's kind of being worked on at the moment, but no planned release for that just yet.
there we go. Alright guys, so if you have any other questions, you can also dev on the Discord, because I'm gonna end the stream here now. Okay, so for everyone that jumped into the stream, I do appreciate it. Red, for you as well, I do appreciate for giving us 2 hours or just over 2 hours of your time to answer all of the questions and stuff like that.
It's been good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Then I'll see you again.
Yep, I will speak to you soon. Well,
Alright.
Post 0.3, hopefully.
Well, we'll definitely still keep in contact on Discord.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, no problem. Alright guys, I hope you guys have a good day and a good